right? Revenue, profit, cash. Revenue is not cash, right? Revenue is not profit. I cannot spend my revenues. I cannot spend my profits. I can spend my cash, but I start to break it down in this way. So the way I look at these things, Jay, is I honestly, guys, I want to generate the maximum amount of revenue with the least amount of assets. Maximum amount of revenue with the least amount of assets. Now, like Ty, when I say that to you, what does that ultimately, like, what do you hear when I say that?
You want to be able to have the least tied up in, well, just, I guess I'll go to a production side. You want to have the least amount of equipment needed to be able to produce the most dollars worth back for you. So you're not eating up your depreciations and things like that.
100%. Okay. So when I look at a piece of equipment, is that piece of equipment really generating me the ROI that it could? Right. And that's a good thing to measure. So this is called your effectiveness ratio. Okay. There's 3 key ratios I monitor every single month. It's effectiveness, it's efficiency, and it's productivity. Okay. The effectiveness ratio is saying, okay, Jace, here's your list of assets. Okay. And for me, I don't have a lot of physical assets, right? But the assets that we have is our team. Right. So how effective are we as a team? How much revenue are we generating as a team based off a certain number of people? Right. Because my assets are our team. Okay. With you guys, if you have equipment, things like that, it's going to be a little bit different. Some of you guys do have team members. And so that ratio is relevant too, because it gives you the thing is that's important about it is it gives you a trend over the long term. It tells you how good you're really doing and if we're being efficient or effective or not. Okay. Does that make sense to everybody? So like Josh Ora, for example, with the equipment that you have right now, how effective are you being with it? Meaning, is the equipment generating you the biggest ROI that it could?
Which equipment? My cattle feeding stuff or the combine or?
Okay, let's talk about cattle feeding stuff because I already know the answer to that one.
Right now, nothing because there's no cattle in the place.
Right, so we have this asset now that we have to monitor. We have to have maintenance on it. We got to take care of it. It's depreciating, right? That asset is not actually producing any solid revenue for me. So is that asset really one that I want? Right, it's kind of like a team member, for example. If you have a person that you've hired, and Josh, you guys have had experiences with this, not hiring a good person that they're not generating any revenue for you, well, we're going to get rid of the person. Right? Equipment's the same way. Okay, so all of you, there are other reason here too for clean books and to know where you're at and what assets are a part of which entity is so that when you run this ratio and you look, okay, I have X dollars in assets, how much revenue did we generate with those assets? And if it sucks, okay, great, then we know we need to make some changes in how we're doing business. Okay, with the farm operation, for example, the farming's tough because you never know what the revenue is going to be. That's what I hate about it is you never know. We have all these assets. We got to have all this equipment, but at the end of the day, what's the revenue that it's going to generate for us? If those numbers are not good, okay, great. Then I need to start changing strategy here because I'm trying to operate a broken system. Okay. Does that make sense? Ty, does that make sense to you?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So Jay says he's calling it cash flow. I would just call it revenue, right? That's how I would look at cash flow. Jay, does that make sense to you too? Oh, you got me? Okay. Can everybody else hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the first one that I look at. Okay. Assets on the balance sheet. What's the total revenue that I'm generating with those assets? Okay. And if it's not a multiple, meaning you're not generating more revenue than what your assets are worth, obviously you got a big freaking problem. Right. Okay. The next one is the overall efficiency ratio. The efficiency ratio is built on how well or how efficient am I at converting the revenue I generate into profit. Okay, so like Ty, for example, what's profit on the farm operation? What would you consider profit?
That would be at the end of the year when everything's paid for and we've covered all depreciation.
Okay, so what's another mechanism to talk about? Well, yeah, so that would be correct then. Yeah, because we're looking at all those things overall. What it was the take home from the business. Now the problem is though, Ty, can you spend your profits?
No. Well, yeah,
Well, hold on here, because on paper, you can be profitable, right?
This is where I'm stuck right now, because I show an increase in net worth every year, quote, profit,
Yeah.
but I don't have the money sitting in the bank.
And that's why I say there's a difference between the revenue, profits, and cash. I can't spend profits.
Yeah.
It's great to talk about them. Everybody loves to talk about how much I'm going to profit on this crop, or what my harvest profits say I'm going to profit on this crop. That's great, but profits aren't cash either. Okay,
Yeah.
so when we're looking at profit, it's saying, okay, out of the revenues I'm generating here with my assets, how efficient am I at converting those revenues into actual profit? Meaning, am I building a profitable business or not? Or am I making money or not? And if I'm not, then that means some shit's got to change here pretty quickly.
How does debt kind of play into that? Because you have to have profit to pay off the debt, and then that's where the net worth, gains versus your liabilities. Is there a special formula to kind of put that in there? Because I mean, to me, I have to make 100,000 break even, or profit 100,000 to pay my debt every year, but I still won't get any cash because I'm still paying off the debt, type of deal. I mean, where's the fine line there to where I actually start putting the cash back in? Do I pay off all the debt first, or otherwise I'm just going to keep going backwards?
Yeah. Okay. So, but the thing is, though, is like, even like your debt payments, those don't come after profit. Those bleed into your profits, right? So you have your revenue, you have your expenses, your debt payments. Like when your banker's looking at it, he's including your debt payments in your expenses.
Okay.
Right. And on the sheet that I gave you guys, those are included in there as well. Your term debt payments, your line of credit interest payments were also included in that. And then after all those things are added up, that's when we get the profits. Okay, so you want to increase profits. That's why guys go through and they'll restructure some debts sometimes and things like that, make payments more easy, right? Corey's chapter 12 guy. He's wanting to restructure his debt payments so he can actually show profit on the farm operation and make things where they're workable. Okay, but even if you show profits, though, when we're looking at profits, basically what that is, your efficiency ratio, when I'm looking at that, that's telling me how efficient am I at cutting expenses or monitoring expenses in my business. Okay, if I have a certain amount of revenue, how good is Jace at monitoring the expenses inside a legacy farmer to make sure out of that revenue we're producing, we're maximizing our profit from that? Right, and it forces you to go in and look at your detailed expenses line by line and say, okay, do I really need this or do I not need this? It's a good habit, guys, because if I see that ratio trending up or in the negative direction, that means I need to relook at our expenses and say, hey, are we spending money on stuff right now that we don't necessarily need? Or is there some things that we can shift around here?